Okay, cool. So yeah, there's a little preview of some stuff while I was at Japan, since I was there for, I think, about 14 days. And we've got, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes. Probably just go through sort of the highlights of things, and I'll try to also point out in particular items that show cultural differences, because I think those are probably the most fun things to point out, is all the cultural differences. So haven't done any real preparation here, so I'll just do a little bit ad hoc. So let's go. So as Stephanie pointed out, my only main selfie here is like, okay, all ready to go. Got my backpack bag, which is exactly small enough to fit in the smallest size Japanese train lockers, which is extremely useful when you don't have a hotel for that day and you need to store your bag.
Is that all you had with you in terms of luggage? Was just the one bag?
That's right. Well, the one bag on back, and there's also a smaller bag on front, which is sort of my day pack. This worked out pretty darn well. First thing, Japanese airlines, they actually feed you. Not one full meal, but 2 full meals. And they like dim the lights, and they're very helpful and attentive, and they're really efficient too. Like they set up like 3 lines boarding the plane. They're like, okay, everyone get ready. You people in front, you're checking this. You people in back, you're checking that. And then people basically just like walked onto the plane because they were going so fast. And I was like, that was really efficient. We should totally do it that way. So yeah, ANA Airlines, they're good. They're a little pricey. First thing, trains. People use them a lot. So they have things telling you like where you should stand, where people are coming off, where people are going on, whether you're going to walk into like a women's only car, or if you're walking in like a, what do you call it, priority seating. So they've got like really good markers everywhere. So the train comes up, everyone forms like 2 lines diagonally around the doors, everyone comes out, and then everyone goes in, and there's just tons and tons of people walking around. So this is Osaka. I actually arrived a day later than I thought I did because the international dateline was messing with my head. And so I flew out on Wednesday and I arrived Friday morning instead of Thursday morning, which was very strange. So I had to alter things a little bit. So first city we're in is Osaka. Osaka is probably best known for being a industrial center, second only to Tokyo. They are also known to have lots of really good food, which I will attest they have lots and lots of food options, and it's reasonably priced. In terms of individual attractions, Osaka, a lot of people go to the Osaka Castle. Many of them look like this. Most of the original castles in Japan were destroyed during like World War II, I think. So most of the castles that you see these days are actually reconstructions, including this one. The Osaka Castle, I think, it's like 8 stories or so. Look at all the people. Like this wasn't even on a weekend, I don't think. There are just tons of people everywhere. Everyone's walking in Japan. These castles have these like little fish things on all the sides.
How'd you get that photo?
Oh, I was in the castle.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say it's from
What are they doing there? Are they just traveling?
They're
Are they worshiping?
I'm pretty sure they're sightseeing. They weren't worshipers for this particular one. There were other places where there were. Just to point out a cultural thing, this is a chrysanthemum flower, which is the sort of the official flower of the imperial family in Japan. So you'll see it in a lot of different places. There's some treasures. Hey, yeah, we're going into Japan here, starting with Osaka. Yeah.
I love
so-
those uniforms.
Yeah, so you can always recognize groups of school children because they are always wearing hats, usually yellow hats. In this case, white hats. Maybe they're middle school. But yeah, the elementary school is like just an army of yellow hats. Probably, easy to see. You can always see the teachers keeping track of them. So
This is some cute little metal turrets.
yeah, there's a couple of those in Japan. I saw a couple of those of that type. So this is a I guess this was a temple with the surrounding graveyard, which I just ran into. Oh hey, turtles. Tama-chan. Tama is turtle. It has a pagoda. So this was it's a medium-sized temple complex. And it has a garden, and I'm all about the gardens. So I had to go in.
You can go slower through some of those.
But yeah. And then this garden had a tiny Shinto shrine inside of it, which is a little unusual given that I think the rest was Buddhist. But who cares? It's nice. Yeah, so red and black is very common coloring for shrines. I forget precisely what the symbolism is, but I do know that the particular red is good for preserving wood, and most of the stuff is made out of wood. So yeah, gardens are great. This is still the same temple complex. Kitakuen Garden, where are we at? Oh, so okay, that would be the garden around the castle, I think. Oh no.
Can you speak Japanese?
I can, yes. It was very useful. They're much more comfortable with you if you can. They can usually do English, particularly written English. Spoken English they're not so great at, even at like the long distance train stations. I just directly addressed them in English because I'm like, this is going to be complicated. Yeah. I need to talk about like, yeah. So, but they just couldn't really do it. I was like, okay, fine. I'll makeshift this complicated transaction in my Japanese.
Right.
So this is actually a garden. This is a garden near the zoo in Osaka. It's somewhat a smaller one, but it's kind of nice. It has a big pond and an area you can walk around it. So got some water, got some lily pads, got some pathways that you can't go on.
That's a cute
but
little
you can see
substitute for a yellow tape. That little
yeah.
barrier.
Yeah, so they always have they usually have little bamboo rods they put in places that you're not supposed to go, and if they can't fit them, then they'll put like a little tower of rocks right in the middle of your path.
I like that it integrates with the environment. It's not like a big neon thing.
Yeah.
Just stuck in the.
And it's all advisory. This is worth mentioning. So this is still Osaka. This is I forget what tower this is called, but it's relatively famous. It's in a sort of a large shopping complex, which I think was built possibly for maybe the 1930s Olympics or something. It was built for some kind of major event that was here. I spent some time in this shopping complex, and there's also a place called Spa World here, which is just like a really nice spa. They have like European style baths and I guess you'd say Asian style baths in the full sense of the word. So like India and Spain and all these other places all in the same thing. No pictures of that, of course. Yeah, bathing is one where they have slightly different rules in Japan. In particular, you should be clean before you get into the water because the water is assumed to be shared. So if you get soap in the water, they will be very upset with you. No swimsuits in baths, but if you're swimming, you must have a swimsuit. So you got your double-edged sword there. So you have to get that setting right in both cases. So while I was there, I was hunting for the legendary super parfait. This is not actually it. I found one later, but this is me trying to find one.
This is American food? This says pancake.
Yeah, that has English. It has English writing. which is useful because I can't read. I can speak, but I can't read.
Bacon and scrambled eggs.
It's look really Western.
Yeah, this is a cafe. This is a cafe on a shopping street near Umeda Station. There are two main transit stations, subway transit stations in Osaka, and they are huge. One is Umeda and one is Namba. And they're both like, I don't know. They're huge train stations. With like in the case of the northern one, it's like 6 different train stations that have all sort of grown together as one thing. And then there's a whole set of like department stores that are around it. And in this case, if you get out of the department store and onto the street, you'll get into cafes and shops and things that are all near the station. So this is one of those places. That was the first day in Osaka. Second day, I was like, let's go for a hike. Because again, gardens and green stuff and things. Can't resist. Whoops.
Where do you mostly stay?
Different places. Mostly hotels. These would be, I guess, Western style, which means not Japanese style, which means it has sort of the same amenities you would expect. The rooms are a bit smaller than you might expect because they keep everything very compact. But mostly hotels.
Did you stay in any capsule hotels?
I did not. I thought about it.
Capsule hotel.
A capsule hotel is a type of accommodation unique to Japan. It is geared towards folks who are out late for business or otherwise, which is much more common in Japan. It's kind of like sleeping in a coffin.
It's just a bed. You rent basically just a bed and enough space
Yep.
at the foot of the bed to put
Yep.
your bag,
You
and
sort
that's
of-
it.
You sort of jump up and you slide in, and then you close the door behind you.
Oh,
And
so
then-
like it's a bed-sized room.
It's a
Yeah.
bed-sized room, and
Oh my
with
God.
like a TV like right in front of you, with like some lockers just outside there. They're almost always attached to like a public baths, so you can get up and actually effectively have a shower or a bath. Usually have good deals because they're usually like paired facilities that are right next to each other.
Also, you must be really tall for all of you.
Yeah, probably true. Also, if you're a woman, capsule hotels are not really geared towards you. You'd have to look specially for that because it's usually like Japanese businessmen most of the time. Predictably, they're super cheap. They're something like $10 a night or something. But all accommodation in Japan is relatively inexpensive. I think I normally paid something like maybe $70 a night because you pay per person, not per room. And if you're traveling by yourself, that's less.
Big deal.
So
Did you stay in a Ryukan?
I did not. That would be a Japanese style inn. Those are interesting. Those are nice. I did the last time I was in Japan. In Kyoto, this is particularly a good place to do it if you are a foreign tourist and you don't know exactly how things are supposed to work.
Yeah.
I will say that if you try it, usually when you book them, it'll ask you about your arrival time.
Oh yeah.
Pay attention because they'll be waiting to greet you at that
Yeah.
time. So it's a good idea that you actually show up on time.
Yeah.
They'll take
I
off.
stayed at one in Tokyo. I've only ever been to Tokyo, so this is awesome seeing other stuff other than the bright lights in Tokyo.
Yeah, Tokyo.
But, yeah.
Strongly recommend you go to Kyoto at some point because it's just very different. You will have to plan more though because transit in Kyoto is more complicated. It has like 3 different transit systems and they don't interconnect, which is really troublesome. Really useful to have a phone that works so you can use Google Maps in Kyoto
That's the way to do it.
because the buses are really a good way to get around in Kyoto, but you can't use the buses well unless you can just ask the
It's kind
internet.
of scary as well, like using public transport in Japan.
That's right.
Right. It's like
There's a bunch of different rules. Are you paying when you get on the bus or when you get off the bus? Is it a fixed fare? Is it depending on how far you go? If it's depending on how far you go, there's a ticket machine you have to pull in order when you get on the bus. The driver may not tell you to do it because you might be boarding at the back, and so there's just a machine that you have to know to pull from. There's like all these like little things, and in general, don't be the first person to board the bus. and watch what the person in front of you does,
Fair.
and then you'll be good.
That's a pro tip.
So yeah, do as the Romans do. It works. But yeah, so Mino, it's a hike. So this was like a little day trip from Osaka. There's a nice, it's a hillside town really. So you're like walking up the mountains and you're like walking by like people's houses and there's this river that's going up. So I'm just like following this path, going up. And there's a waterfall up at the top, which everyone's excited about. I thought this was going to take me all day, but instead this took me like a third of the day. So I was like, I wonder what I'm going to do. So I stood around for a little bit, and I was like, I wonder what I'm going to do. And meantime, ran into this woman. She's like, hey, can I help you? You look like you might be lost or something. And I'm like, nope, I'm just trying to figure out what to do because this day went a lot faster than I wanted. And she's like, oh, well, here, let me talk with you about things because you're an interesting person. And here, let me show you my house. And here, let me take you out to lunch. And here, let me show you, like what a neighborhood looks like and not like all the standard stuff. So we had a good conversation.
That's so cool. So it just took you, gave you like a private tour.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, there seems to be a very high focus on service in sort of the general sense over there. So you have, things like this where if you look like you're lost, people will just come up to you and be like, hey, can I help you? Can I walk you to where you're going? This happened a couple times the last time I was in Japan. You'll find there are many more service people for any given thing. Like if you're in a department store, you might actually run into an elevator operator. Or you'll run into elevators that say, this is an unattended elevator, showing you that that's a bit unusual. And there's like 6 people who are helping people board the flights, so there's a lot of more sort of service things going around. So for the rest of the day, I improvised. So Osaka has an aquarium, and it's a really good aquarium. I was quite surprised. It's also next to the Ferris wheel, which I don't recommend simply because it takes forever to board. I did not use it because I saw how long it was taking. But they have a really good aquarium. You got sort of like you're surrounded by these water tanks in different ways. They have the animals well trained when there's feeding time.
Capybara.
So yeah.
I don't know why the capybara is in the aquarium, but that's cool.
But yeah, had quite an extensive collection. These seals are very fat. Hey, I found my parfait. This one is actually like a pancake. This is like a pancake and stuff that's all sort of in a glass. There's one that I think of as more traditional later on because I was going to get myself one of these Japanese parfaits because I can't get them here. So the grandmother I mentioned, Ueno, she recommended that I take a look at Himeji Castle, which is something that I thought of beforehand. This is one of the few castles in Japan that was not destroyed during the bombing. So this is an original castle.
Oh yeah, I heard a lot of castles are recreations of,
That's right.
of old castles.
Pretty much the only Kyoto's probably the main place where there are things still around that are original because the U.S. Army or whatnot had a do not bomb Kyoto directive in place when the World War II was around, so it mostly got out of that unscathed. But there are a few places where a few still remain. So Himeji is a little town. It's a castle town. Like everything is around this castle. Probably even more so now than it used to be. So yeah, it's pretty impressive. You can walk up into it. There was a lot of people. This is a weekend, so there was a lot of people, and they were like limiting access. Some nice views near the top. They do have did have a few folks who are praying for part of it. And I don't have too many pictures of the inside, but it's an actual proper fortification. So there was like an armory and a weapons room and lots of things where like archers could see out and nick you off. And the way that the walls are built up, you'll see they're slanted. They're designed to make it easy to pick off anyone who's coming up the sides. And here's some random things. Okay, oh yeah, this was a very nice garden that was around that castle. It was a collection of like 8 or 9 gardens that were all sort of like in a single complex. So you could walk through one garden and then you'd walk through a barrier, then you'd be in another garden. So water, trees, grass, always koi, always the koi fish. Sometimes turtles. They use a lot of bamboo. The Japanese maples are extremely common there. There's a lot of like maple viewing things that go on during the summer. This is a traditional style Japanese roof made out of thatch. Requires a lot of maintenance, so it's not super common these days. Most of the ones that are not maintained have just fallen apart. So this one's being maintained. Gardens, they're great. Bamboo. See more of that in Kyoto. Oh, and I thought this was an interesting shot. So these are the fish things on the sides of the castle, which is apparently just standalone here. Here's Himeji Castle in the distance.
Do they have some kind of like backstory? These fish, they always look like slightly
They do.
draconic
They
fish.
they probably do. I don't know what it is.
I don't remember exactly, but it's something about protection.
Yeah, so it's an architectural element that has remained constant over several hundred years, long enough for you to see like in the Meiji period, these types of things looked like this, and in this other period, it looked like that. So I don't know what they are.
I treat him like a gargoyle.
A gargoyle, I could see that. Oh yeah,
Oh, they're very
Var. Yeah. In Japan, there's a lot of things that have mascots. Like a lot of different companies have mascots, and occasionally they're just walking around for no good reason. This particular one, I think, is a mascot of like a cell phone company, which is just floating around. Oh yeah, they're having a little tiny cultural festival in view of the castle, because everything has to be in view of the castle in Himeji, because it's all about the castle. Ramen.
Nice. Yen. Good deal.
Yeah, so most meals,
$8.50.
yeah, a lot of meals were like $8, $9, $10. If you got a slightly nicer meal, it might run you like 12, 13, 14. Unless you were doing something extra special, like eel. People in Japan really like their eel, and it is expensive. It's like $30. So
So you just put a comma next to the 8, so it's $8.50.
yes,
More or less,
yeah, pretty
$8.50.
much, exactly.
Yeah, it's like 97 cents or
Yeah.
sorry, 97 yen or 98 yen or something. So it's more or less a
Oh,
dollar
okay.
conversion.
Yeah, and this is a kanji symbol that's worth knowing. It's kind of like the dollar sign. It's the yen sign, except it's the yen sign that they actually use, as opposed to the Y with double stripe thing, which you never actually see. This is the one that you see everywhere. Means you must pay this much for whatever it is that we're talking about. So that's all I had for Osaka. Moving on to Nara. Nara is a place that people don't know quite as much about. Nara is the oldest permanent capital of Japan, which means it has accumulated like temples and palaces and things of riches. So in fact, I think, yeah, all of these cities except for Osaka were permanent capitals of Japan at some point, in particular Nara, Kyoto, and Tokyo. or all permanent capitals, where are in the case of Tokyo. Nara is probably most famous for Nara Park and the reindeer, or really just the deer. So they sell these biscuit crackers all over the park. And then the deer, they realize that you have biscuit crackers, and then they storm you. And sometimes they storm you even if you don't. The last time I was in Nara, one of them came up to me and ate a map out of my back pocket. So it's actually, and little children who are about as tall as the deer are a little skittish around them. So it's pretty funny just watching people interact with them. So in Nara, if you get into Nara, you are surrounded by this very large park called Nara Park. And inside this greater park area, there's a ton of temples and shrines. Basically everything you really want to see in Nara is just right there when you get there, which is super nice. By the way, if you go to a lot of temples, it's going to cost you, because like each temple entry is like $5. So that starts adding up if you go to like 7 temples in one day. And by the way, I'm saying temple and shrine interchangeably here. If you go into a religious building, it will cost you some. So this is one. Yeah.
And these are all Buddhist temples?
So 2 kinds. They're either Buddhist or Shinto. If you see the the torii gate, that is definitely a shrine. If you see like little lightning white things hanging down, that's definitely a shrine. Most everything else is a temple. That's
So, torii gates, like the red one.
That would be definitely Shinto.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that would be a Shinto shrine. They're marked on maps as like that little gate icon, and then the Buddhist temples are marked as the reverse swastika, because the swastika is actually the Buddhism sign reversed.
Yeah.
But everyone knows the swastika and not the Buddhism sign here. So take your pick. So yeah, so this isn't even in the main temple area, and these are like little temple things that are all around the place. So I went around to a few minor ones, then realized that I had limited time. Oh yeah,
So pretty.
yeah. If you go to each city, their manhole covers are regional. So this is Nara's, which is kind of neat. It's
And
got
the deer.
with the deer, of course.
It says dirty water on the plate.
Yeah, as in don't drink it. So
Dirty water.
Yeah, because I can read the Chinese.
Oh,
I
yeah?
mean the kanji that they share.
oh, I see.
Oh,
It says dirty water on there.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
don't-
This is.
Don't drink
Yeah,
dirty
like
water.
sewage.
No, because this is the gate to go inside the sewage and all that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can read that as water, but I can't read the other one. And this is a nice garden that I went in last time. It's just a lot of water and grass. Did go in this time. This is another just random.
Okay.
Yep. So this is a shrine. You are entering a shrine.
And there's the little like paper guys.
Yep. So that's definitely a shrine. It probably has, to the left or to the right, it has like a little water station where you have these like ladles, and you can clean your hands before you enter the area. And the deal with these torii gates is that it divides the world between the sacred area and the non-sacred area. So when you cross through it, you're then in a sacred area. This also means that certain rules apply, like no eating, no smoking. Don't do anything that's probably considered, I don't know, unclean. Let's see, me just walking around. Oh, this is a nice little pavilion that's in the middle of a lake to the south of the main Nara Park area. Another nice little thing on the side. There was like a wedding that came through here, which I just kind of dodged. Ate lunch here. There's a nice pavilion.
The woven ceilings.
Yeah. Their architecture is very interesting. It always has lots of details in it. Even like their storm drains, which is normally just like a concrete wall where water just goes into it. It looks like a waffle or something. So they have like all this extra like The Japanese do art differently. They believe that it should just be like naturally integrated into everything, and in particular integrated into everyday objects. So things like your folding screens, where the purpose is to divide a room. It has just interesting pictures on the side. The Western concept of art as a distinct thing that can be separated out and put in a special museum is a little bit foreign to the Japanese. But they do manage it in Tokyo, in the art museum there, which is very expensive. But they don't really have that many art museums per se floating around. They do exist, but you have to look around for them a bit. They just sort of put things everywhere. Oh yeah, so this is a watch out for the deer sign. This is the oldest variety.
They won't knock you down.
It's fine.
I have seen most of this in person, actually, especially this one. They're like, oh, your bag has something in it. Let me open your bag and get all the food that's hiding inside of it. Haven't seen anyone actually try and kick a little person, but definitely running around chasing little kids running away. Kids like, nope, I don't have food, no food. And they hold up their hands like, I have no food, which sometimes works. It's a good idea to avoid the deer that actually have antlers, because that might mean that they're sort of in like mating season. They're more aggressive than normal. But yeah.
What's in the following one where there's like two people chasing a deer at the bottom with a stick?
Don't chase
Oh
them.
yeah, things don't do
not
things to the
hit or
deer.
chase deer.
Rules for protecting the cities.
Yeah,
Parents can.
yeah, and the story for
Oh yeah, like watch out that they might get startled into the road and.
yeah, so the story with the deer in Nara is the I think it's the Kasuga shrine. There's a to the east of the main Nara Park. There's a forest, and inside the forest there's a number of temples. The biggest one I think is the Kasuga shrine. I might be getting this wrong, because it's the Kasuga primeval forest, and they treat deer as sacred, and so. Deer have always been treated very nicely in this area, which is probably why there's so many of them at this point.
And why they're so aggressive.
And now we have deer crackers, so now they're there to stay. So, anyway, deer. Hi, deer. Yep, this is the typical, like, oh my god, I'm a kid and there's a deer. Oh, Isui-en Garden. This is my favorite garden. Well, two of my favorite gardens in Nara are right next to each other. This is the one that costs more, which is to say this is the one that costs it all. The other one is totally free because it was bought by the city, and so they just have it out there. So this is a really nice garden. So you got your water, you got your plants, you got your buildings, you got your interesting pathways, traditional roofing. Whoops.
What are those little things with the stone?
Oh, the stone lanterns. I believe they're designed to illuminate the garden at night. They're also designed to be seen from like a sitting position. So if you were,
Sorry, Kevin's calling me.
oh, okay, sure.
I do want to hear what that is.
Sure, I'll tell you when you're back. But yeah, stone lanterns are very common inside Japanese-style gardens. Also, moss, like they often like having moss in gardens. And they have specifically moss gardens as well. It's a little harder to maintain because the moss is very sensitive to getting stepped on. So they're like, please stay on the rocks, like not around the rocks, on the rocks, because you'll crush the moss. So, oh, and here's one of those like, no, you can't go here because I'm a random rock in your path. Oh yeah, and here's a water clock. No, that's not a water clock. That's just a water fixture. That's interesting. Another traditional roof, looking out towards the mountains. This is all in the same garden. Fairly large garden. You'll find I like pathways, so you'll see lots of pictures of stairs. Oh yeah, there's a little, what do you call it?
Water wheel?
Yeah, water wheel. It's not a windmill exactly, but it is a water wheel that's just there. And this is a path that's made out of stones. There are actually different names for different types of paths. So if it's made of entirely natural stone, then it's a very informal path. If it's entirely like rectangular blocks, that's the most formal kind of path. And sometimes it's made of both. And there are reasons that they choose for that in various places. Okay, Neiraku Museum. So this is all the same garden. I like gardens.
That
Yeah.
tower is neat.
Yep, tiny. So this is a stone pagoda, which you occasionally run into in gardens and natural areas. Not as commonly.
It's actually pretty big, judging by that lady in the background.
I don't know what they are in general. I do know that in certain places they're used to like indicate where the moon is, because they like watching, like moon viewing is a thing. So sometimes this is placed something to indicate where something is up. I think they may also double as like a gravestone or a gravesite type of thing. It's something related to like the dead departed. Just all these moss, just rocks and yeah. Okay, so this is looking over. That would be a Zen garden. We have gone somewhere else. Let me see. Where are we now? We are in some kind of temple. Ah, Daibutsu-en. Got it. Okay. So this is probably the most famous temple in Nara Park. It has a huge Buddha statue inside. In fact, I think it has 3 of them. But that one's just huge. Wonder if I can get one with a person in it to show you the scale. Oh yeah.
See their head?
Yeah, their heads are down here. This thing is enormous. Yeah. Daibutsu-en, the super Buddha. Dai is like bigger, or yeah, Dai is bigger generally. It's kind of like Uber in German. It's the Uber Buddha. These are guardians, typically placed at the entrance of either temples or shrines in different positions. This one's actually inside. Oh yeah, and look at all the people who are coming. Yeah, so they're the elementary kids, and these are probably the middle school kids, just by looking at the colors of the hats. I don't know what the... Oh, this is another just small thing around Nara Park. This is very unusual. It's kind of like a stone pagoda, except that it's gold, and it's not shaped the same way. So I don't know what that is. I have no food. No food. No food here. No food. Nai, 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 they'd always say. Deer's just chilling out, harassing grandparents.
Oh yes.
Of course, the land of Pikachu. Also, the land of vending machines. There are drink vending machines everywhere. Everywhere in Japan. You climb up a mountain, there's drink vending machines. It's just ridiculous. If you climb up Mount Fuji, there's like a drink machine at the top of Mount Fuji. They're everywhere. Don't bring a water bottle. You won't need it. Your hotel will give you water bottles if you really want them, for free, without you asking. And if you get thirsty, there's a drink machine. Just walk 200 feet. It'll be there. These are stone lanterns that line a path. These you occasionally see if you're walking up a path to some kind of religious structure. They have room for 1 candle inside, and they usually have a paper thing on the front. Looks Looks like most of them don't. Well, actually, about half of them do here. So this is a cleaning station. Oh yeah, Kasuga Taisha. Okay, so this is Kasuga Shrine. Taisha means shrine, so Kasuga Shrine. And this is a major shrine, so you'll see a lot more red in it. They have lots of these neat lanterns that are floating around. They're just hanging from this area around the shrine. And of course, the lightning bolt things. More lanterns. Oh yeah, people actually praying. Oh, this is a I don't know, a shrine keeper. He's someone who works in. Well, in this case, it's a guy, but yeah, same idea. Yeah, I don't forget the. Yeah, shrine monk. No, that's not right. A shrine keeper. I'll just stick with that. He was just showing folks around.
Shrine attendant.
Shrine attendant. This must be a holy tree because it has the lightning things around it. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of these. Don't know what that is. This is somewhat uncommon. What it's
So where you like put your wish or something on paper?
that's the common thing, and that actually may be what's happening here. But usually they do it with like little placards, like little things that are like note card sized, and that you could actually read. This is a little bit more unusual. The deer. This is a little more common. Well, except not usually hearts.
For love wishes.
You can actually, yeah. So oftentimes, different temples, different shrines, they specialize in a particular deity for certain types of good luck, good fortune, that sort of thing. So this is probably a place that has good luck or good relationships. Good relationships. Some flags here. I can't read any of them. Food, about $10. Yeah. Can read the English. There's usually pictures. Oh, hey.
Parfaits.
Proper parfaits. Yes.
The
Look
little
at that.
deer.
That's awesome.
And the little flan in the middle.
It's all about presentation. They're gonna make it. They're gonna have it rotated to you the right way. And they're gonna have it stuck in front of you. Yeah.
The deer cookie is a great touch.
So
You took off the cookie.
it's like it was tasty. I thought this was interesting. This is clearly like trying to be American. Let me see. I guess I don't have any pictures, but when I was in Osaka, the first hotel I stayed in was in an area called Amerikamura, which is sort of like a shopping area that's trying to be like, you want to look American and you're in Japan, so they're playing like gangster rap and they've got all this like New York and other Texan and other like stereotypically American things going on there. Oh my god. Oh yeah, it actually knows where I took all these because I used my phone and it's smarter. So yeah, Snara. Let me see. So I've got like 15 minutes. So let's see. What do I want to actually concentrate on here? I'll scroll through some of these. So Kyoto. Kyoto is I would say probably the cultural heart of Japan, cultural capital. It has the largest number of shrines and temples per capita of anywhere else. Lots and lots of old buildings that were not destroyed during the war, which is great. Lots of greenery and things. So yeah, of course I had to go back to Kyoto. So I'll point out just a few things because there's so many things in Kyoto. So one that's relatively well known. This is Kinkakuji, the a gold pavilion, gold pavilion temple. It's probably the most visited temple in Kyoto. There's huge tour buses coming up and whatnot when I was over there. It's kind of neat. Let me see. Zoom out again. Oh, this is nice. So this is some Shinto shrine. You'll notice that they often have, I can only assume that this is sake, but I can't read it, so I couldn't tell you. Also, if you have like a Shinto priest, they have these rods with all the lightning things on them. I'm not quite sure what they do with them, but they often have them.
Banish evil spirits or something.
So let's see. Yeah, this was Northwest Temples, where I was just trekking all around Northwest Kyoto. Temples, temples, temples. Garden.
There's that like Zen rock garden thing.
Yeah, so you see these occasionally. I guess I'm not as interested in them myself, but it's kind of neat. They have special rakes in order to get the stone in that sort of texture. It looks like kind of like a large jagged rake. More food. What food is this? Noodles, udon noodles.
The plastic food
Yep.
stuff.
It's very convenient because you can take a picture and say, I want this. Sento Villa. So Kyoto has, I think, 3 or 4 imperial villas, which are, some of them are where like past emperors have retired to. At least that's what their traditional use is. The Sento Villa is the villa that the current royal family uses when they're staying in Kyoto. All of these require reservations like months in advance. So if you go, plan ahead. Sento Villa is nice. Sure, let's dive into it just a little bit. So let me see. Just going to give sort of the impression. Oh, my camera died. Let's see. So this is sort of entering like a large complex. So there's a large like water area in the center. You're walking around. There's some bridges on the sides. Some of these are earthen bridges. So this is just made out of earth. Ah, a lightning bridge. I don't know what these are actually called, but if you're in a Japanese garden and you see a bridge that kind of looks like a lightning bolt, the reason it's done that way is Japanese ghosts can only walk in a straight line. So if you walk across one of these lightning bridges, you for sure are not being followed by a ghost across the bridge.
Wow.
Perfect.
So I call these alternately lightning bridges or ghost bridges.
That's cool. So they can't just go like this and then turn.
Nope. Nope. They only go in straight lines.
Okay.
And momiji, because lots of people like watching the Japanese maples when they turn red. Yeah, this is a huge, like, little rock zone. Every single rock here, the emperor paid like one like basket of wheat for. I don't know what the story is behind that. So this is the Sento Imperial Villa, the place where the current royal family stays when they're in Kyoto, which is open to the public if you have reservations a month in advance.
Wow.
This is all the same place. Hey, rocks. This is actually kind of a nice, it's a trellis bridge. Another traditional roof. Yeah, and this is exiting. So this sort of architecture where you have the roof in this pattern, actually I think comes from some sort of Chinese architecture. You will frequently see it on, I think, temples, and also bathhouses from a certain period, because I went to an architectural museum and they started putting these in the front of bathhouses as well at some point. So let me see. What
Sun
else?
Heron.
Yeah. Where did this come from? Hold on, wrong button. I don't know where this was. Just one of the innumerable temples and gardens in Kyoto, which is wonderful. Just see all the green. More groups of people. Where on earth was this? This was a major hillside temple. Oh, Gion. Oh, this is yes, what is it? Kiyomizu-dera. Definitely worth checking out if you're in Kyoto. It's a major temple shrine on a hill, a relatively tall hill that is overlooking Gion, which is sort of, I don't know, the very old pleasure quarters of Kyoto, an entertainment district. Really, an entertainment district is a better way of putting it.
Love bicycle.
Oh yeah, I thought that was funny.
Love bicycles.
Love bicycle tender. Play nice with the bicycles on the road. There's lots of not completely correctly translated English all over the place, which is sort of funny. Also, people actually wear kimonos, especially if they're in certain areas. If you're in Kyoto in particular, there's lots and lots of kimono rental shops, so you can just like walk around in a kimono, which is kind of nice. There's an equivalent for guys as well, but you don't see that as commonly.
Scroll back up for a little bit. What's that set of all those rocks on the hillside? There's only a piece of it up at the top row there.
Am I still going up?
Yeah, one more up. There you go, all the way on the left.
Oh, this?
Yeah.
So these are a bunch of carved Buddha statues. I have seen this type of thing in a couple places, but I'm not sure what the significance is. What I can tell you is that at the time that these were carved, they were individual. That is, these are not all the same template. So it takes some...
Yeah, they look pretty worn away in
Yeah.
a lot of cases.
Yeah, with the exception of there's collections of Buddha statues that are sometimes indoors. Those are much better preserved, but the ones that are outside, yeah, they're pretty worn away. So, oh yeah, and I found a Ghibli store. So there's a giant Totoro. You might have seen Totoro at some point during your childhood. Of course, I had to get a picture. Anyway, more tasty food.
Is that rice?
Let me see. This would have been probably this is a curry donburi. Yep, curry donburi. It's got some meat. It's got some curry, and I'm not sure what this is. Maybe some kind of egg,
Looks like an egg.
Looks like egg and tofu.
but it's tasty. This is one of the shrines that I could see from my hotel because I was in Gion. Let me see. Don't have a lot of time left. Maybe we'll do a part 2 at some point.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that.
But yeah, Kyoto is just great. So the next place I was in Kyoto, so I was at the Sento Imperial Villa before. There's another imperial villa called the Katsura Imperial Villa. This is actually my favorite out of all the villas that I've been to so far. And there's also a small area called Matsuo, which is nearby. Probably not worth going into it. Although I did find the cat shrine. There's so many cats. And it was actually an in-use shrine, so most of the people there were actually praying. Don't know what this is. Maybe it's related to this thing.
So what is the deal with it's like white squiggly line things?
I don't know. So the white squiggly line things, when they're by themselves and they're just sort of hanging from something, is used as sort of like a sacred boundary. It's the same sort of thing as the gate. I occasionally see them specifically around trees, which I sort of suspect means that it's a holy tree of some kind. There's also these rods that have a bunch of the squiggly things hanging from. I don't know what these are, but I do know that sometimes you'll have effectively priests who are walking around carrying these.
Oh, just extra. Like,
In anime, they always wave them around or hit people with them to banish bad spirits.
Ah.
I don't know if that is
Okay.
accurate in any way.
Could be. Could be. So let's see. So what am I looking at here? This is not the bamboo grove. This is just another great garden thing that's just floating around because it's Kyoto. Oh, this is the Katsura Imperial Villa. Yes. Okay. So, yeah, it's another Imperial Villa. It has bamboo groves. It has neat little things you can walk between. It has bridges. We haven't even seen half of it. It has a giant lake in the middle. It's designed to have like boats go across all the time. So there's like little boat landing piers at all of the buildings that are inside the greater garden area. Stone lanterns. Your typical barrier. Let's see, and this is one of the buildings inside. Let me see, I only had that picture. Looks like I only have this picture. Yeah, the checkerboard is unusual. The Imperial is like novelty, so you'll often find some number of unusual things in any particular building that's used by royalty, or was used by royalty at some point. This particular one, the Katsura Imperial Villa, was used by some prince. I don't know the precise story, but their particular line died out, which is why this is now owned by the Imperial Household Agency and not by an individual family. So yeah, just great bridges and gardens and stones. The Katsura Imperial Villa was specifically built to facilitate moon viewing. So there's a special building that has like a moon viewing platform. And this particular stone pagoda is pointing straight up to where the moon would be at night.
Handy reference point.
Exactly. And the lanterns in this villa are smaller than would be usual to avoid light pollution. So it's keeping the lights further down to the ground so that you can better see the moon. Oh yeah, this is sort of interesting. So, you know, this is frequented by princes and people of royalty and high stature. And those people don't usually see like farmland or farming. So I guess these pictures aren't super great, but there's like a plowed field that's just in view of one of the buildings. So this is, you know.
It's like Marie Antoinette's little toy farm.
Exactly.
She had.
Exactly. Which they've.
Let's see how the common folk do things.
Exactly. And we'll poke fun at them. So, all right, I think we're probably going to get kicked out here. But yeah, we got
part two.
Yeah.
we got halfway through Japan. So clearly, if we did one more hour, this we'd get all the way through. But yeah, thanks for joining. It's always nice to show people.
That was fun. Thanks.